Hi guys, this is Kevin Kleinman, head trader at Watchhimtrade.com. Today's date is October 2nd, 2014. I am going to be reviewing GoPro, GPRO. Stock has been very volatile lately, so I'm going to check out the chart, look at some things, see what we might be able to deem from the price action and where we think it could be going here, as it has been a very popular name to trade over the last couple of weeks. So the first thing to notice on GoPro is the obvious one, and that is that the stock is very strong, has been very strong, really since it IPO'd back here in July, and most recently, over the last month, has had a series of really nice upside price action, followed by some downside. And that's just what we got this week. You had kind of a blow-off top in the last 4 days where you went from 80 bucks up to $95. That's this high right here. And then today, for the first time really since day number 4 of the stock's IPO, you had a good shakeout. High volume as represented by this red bar down here. And just an awesome percentage move. You went down 7% on the day. At one point, though, the stock was down like 12%. Actually went below 80 bucks. So the question now is, where does it go from here? Before I get into the major details, I just want to point out some simple things. The stock's in an uptrend. It's had a greater history of going higher than it has going lower. So even though today's move was to the downside, to me, longer term, intermediate term, maybe even short term, this is a stock I want to be a buyer of, not a seller of. I don't care about fundamentals. This is a technical picture, and the technical picture on this name has been very strong, and the market has been very committed to taking GoPro higher. So I think there is something to be said for that. And overall, I would be bullish on GoPro. But let's talk right here, right now. Today's move down. We're going to look at a 3-minute and 15-minute chart and kind of dissect it a little bit. So right here you're looking at a 3-minute chart. The first thing to note is that the pressure today, it didn't just start once the market opened. No, it started pre-market. It started at 6 a.m. this morning when GoPro was gapping down from a close above $91 yesterday. You started gapping down to the 88s, 87 range here. So the best sell-off in GoPro happened when there was a lot of pressure pre-market. That is very important to note for day traders moving forward, because that tells me anytime I see GoPro gapping down, maybe that is a day that it can sell off hard. So that's the first observation I would take away. Then what I would notice here at the open is, number one, massive volume, 900,000 shares within the first 3 minutes of the day. So volume being high appeared to be key to today's sell-off. Number two, what I refer to as the 10-minute box. Okay, the 10-minute box is simply drawing a box around the first 10 minutes of price action. GoPro did actually try and bounce at first, but notice it never got above the 10-minute box. All right, it got rejected right at that 10-minute high, and it was when it broke below the 10-minute box's low, which was right around 85 bucks. That's this low right here that I marked with an X, and it was this candle here that when it broke below that 10 o'clock, sorry, not 10 o'clock, that 10-minute low from that opening 10 minutes of price action, that's really when it triggered a great sell-off to the downside. Yeah, hey, you could have caught this move here too from 88 to 85 bucks, but I'm going to leave that one for the pros. I mean, the easy move was when you broke below that 10-minute low and cracked below 85 bucks. This was a very nice leg to the downside. I felt pretty easy to see coming. We actually shorted it a little bit, my subscribers and me, during our live trading session today because we were watching for that 85 breakdown. So that brings me to my next observation. The $85 level seemed to trigger really good pressure. 85 seemed to be an important mark. When you lost 85, we had a great sell-off. And then, if you notice in the afternoon, once the stock kind of started bouncing, it was then once it regained 85, right about here, that then it triggered a nice move back to the upside towards 88s. And also notice, in line with that 85 break, volume was very high. The afternoon volume was all pretty low. Average volume got down to 200,000 shares per 3 minutes from about 11:30 to 2:30. But then starting at 2:30, lo and behold, volume started exploding again back above 400,000 shares per 3 minutes. And that, coincidence or not, coincided with a breakout back above 85. So the first level that I'm going to tell you guys to watch from a day trading perspective is 85 bucks. $85 is an important pivot point for GoPro. To me, if you are staying above 85, what I would refer to as a over-under setup or a O/U, the over 85 is going to be looking for a move back to the upside towards 88s, today's highs from the morning and this late afternoon. The under 85 is going to be looking for a move back down towards the downside, towards this $80 level and 79, I think it was like 79.50s or so that it hit today. 79.13 was the low. So if you're holding over 85, you're looking for a bounce back up towards 88s to 90. If you're holding under 85, you're looking for a pullback back down towards kind of 82 to 80, 79, where you put in the lows for the day. So that is the immediate term, day trading picture on GoPro. Tomorrow, Friday, October 3rd, when this stock opens up at the open, maybe it gaps below 85. It's actually below it a little bit here after hours. If it's below 85, I think you can have a short trade, but if it's over 85, I think you get a bounce. Let's talk more day-to-day, week-to-week basis from here, what I'm watching for. Well, on a day-to-day basis, today's low is important, okay? If the bears who are arguing that this thing should be a $50 stock, whatever the arguments are, I don't really care. What I care about is if you go below today's low. If you go below today's low, then yes, you can start selling off further. You have a number of gaps in the price from this 4-day move, which is when the volume really started to pick up, although before it really blew off. All right, and you've got some gaps between 72 and 75. You've got a nice gap on the stock. So if you can go below today's low, then 75 to 72 is an area that I think GoPro can get to. Also, you'll see this trend line that I have in the stock, and this is a trend line that I drew when there was only about this much worth of chart, and as you can see, it's really extended off of that trend line nicely. But maybe you start consolidating or come back down a little bit and go towards that trend line. This trend line goes into tomorrow at $62. I'm not expecting it to get down there, but it increases by about 80 cents every day moving forward. So by next Friday, the trend line will be at 66 bucks, and in 2 weeks from now, which I believe is October 18th, either October 18th or October 17th, this trend line will be around 70 bucks. So keep an eye on this trend line, as that's another area that if you get below today's low, you could be setting up to come down towards that trend line. If you're staying above today's low, though, then for everybody that's thinking about what GoPro's next move is, You have to respect the stock's price action. You have to respect it, and you have to believe that the next move is higher. Why? Because that is what the moves have been ever since this thing started trading. The first day of trading, explosive move higher. The next 3 days, explosive moves. Then you had an explosive move higher in end of July. Granted, you gapped down August 1st off an earnings report, but it didn't really go anywhere lower after that gap down. It just kind of went sideways. Then another explosive move higher. Then a gap down. Beginning of September, gap down right there. But look, it didn't go any lower. Another explosive move higher. Lo and behold, another gap down in the middle of September. But it didn't continue lower. Instead, it recovered, and then that preceded this explosive move higher. So, you know, you got to put your beliefs, whatever you think about the stock, wherever you think it should be trading, you got to leave all that at the front door. The bottom line is it's trading where it is for a reason, and that's because there's a lot more buyers than sellers. And I give those buyers the benefit of the doubt because they've earned my trust at this point. So if you are staying above today's low from this point on, your next move in GoPro is going to be to $100. That's just the way it goes. Now, my personal opinion is that you've had a lot of volatility. Huge move up, and then finally today a big move down. You've also had massive volume. That tells you a lot of money came in, a lot of money also came out. There's a lot of different opinions on this stock. Anytime there gets to be a lot of different opinions on a stock, it means there's a lot of disagreement. And it just becomes tough in terms of who's right and who's wrong. The way that disagreement usually gets worked out, other than the obvious, the price either goes up or the price either goes down, is through time, a time correction. So I would not be surprised to see GoPro go a little sideways here, kind of absorb all of these new opinions that came in here, let them work themselves out, and then maybe 1 week from now, let's see what the stock is doing. Has it held this low above 80 bucks? If this time next week we're looking at this same chart and it's still above 80 bucks, it is going to start going higher. If by this time next week it's pressuring 80 bucks and trying to break down below it, then we can talk about another leg to the downside. But my opinion is kind of neutral here with a overall bullish bias based on what the stock has done in its history so far to date. So yeah, it was down nicely today, but you know what? It was also up nicely depending on your perspective. It rallied from 80 bucks all the way back up to $88, so you had a 10% intraday bounce. It actually finished closer to its high of the day than it did its low of the day. So even though it was down, there was some definite demand coming in, ready to step in and be buyers on the stock. So that is how I see GoPro. If you're interested in what I'm going to be thinking about it every day for the next week, then you should go ahead and sign up for a 7-day trial on my website, Watchhimtrade.com. It only costs you $5. You just put your name, your info, your email address, very simple. And then if you like what you see over those 5 days, it's $99 for a monthly subscription. But I follow GoPro every single day, as well as other stocks like Tesla and Netflix, and this is what I do. We will be watching GoPro, but you know what? Maybe GoPro's not the best name to be trading. Maybe it is going to go sideways. We'll just have to see. That's why it's important to have some guidance and know what you want to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video chart, and I hope that some of you will consider subscribing to Watch Me Trade, and we shall see what GoPro does over the next few days and beyond. Good luck. Thank you.